And we start with the Thursday nighter, Troy, 8:15 p.m. Eastern. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Buffalo Bills. Buccaneers 3-3, 2-0 on the road. At the Bills 4-3, 3-1 at Highmark Stadium in Orchard Park, New York. It is 64 Fahrenheit, cloudy, 11 mile per hour winds. Let's get into the line history and the cash flow for this one. We'll start with the line. The Bills are big favorites, and with the way their defense is playing, I understand they're an angry group, but this is a big spread. But it opened up at -8, -106. Now they're -8 and -113. So the market has moved slightly towards them. 7 cents of movement towards them. And from a total scenario, we are sitting at 42.5. This opened up at 42.5 and went down to 41.5, and it's back at 42.5. And watching the Bills defense, I know the Buccaneers struggle to score, and we'll talk all about that. But watching the Bills defense, I thought to myself in that fourth quarter of the Patriots-Bills game, why not just start hammering overs with the Bills? And we'll talk about that here. 86% of the tickets and 89% of the cash on the Bills. Do I want to go up against that? 65% of the tickets and 63% of the cash on the under. Dan Kelly says just too many injuries for the Bills. I was on Patriots team total over last Sunday, and we'll be on the Bucs this week. I get it. And Skydragon says all this info has made lines real tight. Used to bet like 12 totals. Now I bet 6 and hate half of them. Ron Crawford says Bucs cover and Bills win. Spenny Pennybaum's looking at Godwin yards. So the Buccaneers coming off an ugly 16-13 home loss to the Falcons, and they're becoming a very predictable team, which I like. I like very much predictability in sports casting. Baker Mayfield was 27-42 for 275 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. He also ran 3 times for 32 yards. The offense was decent. They picked up 329 yards. They were 6 of 12 on third down. It's just that they continue to struggle in the red zone. And that's why we're cashing unders on all Bucs games. They were 0-2 against the Falcons. They're now 28th in the league, converting 37.5% of their red zone opportunities. Mike Evans caught 6 for 82, and Godwin caught 6 for 66. I mean, it's a luxury for Baker to have these great receivers, but the running game struggles week in and week out. Rachaad White ran 13 times for 34 yards. He did catch 6 passes for 65 yards. That helps. Their defense was strong enough to win them the game. The Falcons offense, was able to move the ball on the Buccaneers with relative ease, 400 yards of offense, but the Bucs D strengthened up when it mattered. They held the Falcons to 1-5 in the red zone. They lead the league, allowing touchdowns on just 22.22% of red zone drives. They forced 3 fumbles, 2 of which came when the Falcons were in the red zone. I mean, it was wild. Those fumbles were absolutely wild. Their pass rush was not strong, 1 sack, but they were strong in other areas. They held the Falcons to 4.1 yards per rushing attempt on 38 carries. And that actually was Atlanta's fewest yards per carry in a game which they've had at least 38 attempts since week 15 of the 2002 season. The defense is 7th in the league, allowing 17.3 points per game. Baker Mayfield dealing with a knee injury. He's expected to play through it. He hasn't practiced this week, and I don't expect him to. And their safety, Kayvon Merriweather, hurt his ankle. He was not part of the walkthrough on Monday, and we haven't been given an update yet. The Bills coming off a 29-25 loss at New England. Josh Allen, 27-41 for 265 yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick. He ran 7 times for 17 yards and a touchdown and lost a fumble. Dalton Kincaid led the Bills receivers with 8 catches for 75 yards. Stephon Diggs caught 6 for 58 and a touchdown. James Cook ran 13 times for 56 yards, caught 3 for 46 and a touchdown. The running game is meek. They averaged 3.4 yards on 24 attempts. I mean, it's pretty ugly, and this offense is struggling. They've now been outscored 24-0 in the first quarter over the past 3 games. They're just not showing up. They've scored 10 first half points over those 3 games. Now, they're still second in the league on third down conversions, converting 49.3% of the time. But this defense looked bad. The injuries are piling up. I mean, with Tre'Davious White gone for the year, then they lose Matt Milano and Daquan Jones long-term. Ed Oliver has a toe injury. Defensive tackle Jordan Phillips is dealing with a back injury. They got 1 sack, 4 quarterback hits. They allowed a Patriots team that had scored 20 points in their previous 3 games to score 29 points and put up 364 yards. And the third down defense from the Bills is now 23rd in the league, and it's dropping, and it will continue to drop. They allow conversions 42.1% of the time. I'm interested in the over in this one, but God, the Buccaneers just can't score in the red zone. Is this beat up Bills defense enough for the Buccaneers to not only cover, but maybe get us? I mean, if they can get to 20 points, we cash the over for sure. If they can get to 17 points, we might. Take it away for us here, Troy, the Thursday nighter Buccaneers Bills.
So when I started hearing about betting the over in a primetime game, I start to grit my teeth a little bit because that's been super unprofitable. But goddamn, you drive a pretty tough proposition there. But when I start looking at this game immediately, I think the Bills are going to bounce back. I mean, that's my initial thought. The Bills lost outright as 8-point favorites. And we know the Bills get angry after losses, especially embarrassing ones. I see a lot of sentiment. I think it's the Bills defense too, but I see some sentiment on Josh Allen when all of his numbers saying he's having a very successful career, top 3 in pretty much every statistical category you want to look at. But it's this Bills defense, and they just continue to get more beat up. Mac Jones had a career day on him. I think the best QBR he's had in the past 2 seasons at least. And despite there's a lot of money coming in on Buffalo, and I don't think we've seen enough line movement at this 8 number. I mean, I feel like we should be seeing a lot more 8.5s across these books. But my thing is when I start looking towards the Bucs is the offense, and I think they're kind of being figured out. If you remember a couple weeks back, I've been talking about how they run play action at the highest rate in the league, or second highest rate in the league, on 30% of dropbacks. But I think that's starting to get aired out a little bit because it's an easy adjustment when you realize they can't run block and they can't run the football for their lives. They just can't run the football. The offensive line, these are the biggest splits I've ever seen, is second in pass block, but 32nd in run block. So what's the defensive adjustment you need to make? Win the run game, win in the box with your front four. Don't bite as a linebacker. Definitely don't bite as a safety. And I feel like that's making it a lot more difficult for Baker Mayfield, whose ratings are dropping off a cliff. There's a pretty significant downtrend each and every game the past few weeks. So I was kind of at dismay in this game. I do trust the Bills to get the win in this game. As you were talking about some of these, the Bucs' great red zone defense, like you were saying, their offense is just as bad as their defense is good. But is that a little bit of a fraudulent stat though? Because if you look at all their other metrics, I mean, they're 32nd in the league opponent third down conversions, and they're in the mid 20s for most of these metrics that I'm looking at. So is that going to come back to is there going to be some unfavorable regression in that red zone defensive category? I think there could be, which also leads to the over, Jimmy. To be honest, I see a lot of reasons to back the over. I couldn't do it just because it's primetime unders for me, or anything or nothing. But I do have a teaser. This is the first leg of a teaser, and I'm actually teasing quite a few teams with one specific spot that we'll get to later.
God, I want that Buccaneers team total over. I want this game over.
That makes a lot of sense. I think it's the right look.
Dan Kelly talking about, him hammering team totals against the Bills. It just makes so much sense to me. But I think that I want an angry Bills team involved. I mean, if you watch the Buccaneers defense last week, they had 401 total yards to the Falcons. I mean, it wasn't a shutdown group. Now, sure, they had some great plays down at the goal line, but
they can't get off the field on third down. And every week, it's just the same thing. And then they start you up. I mean, it's effective the way they're playing defense. It has been. But soon it's going to come back to haunt.
I'm very interested in the over. Very interested in the over. And, I expect to move on it. I really do. Let's just take one last look at this thing. So it's a 42.5 at Pinnacle. It's 42 at the other books. It dropped down to 41.5. I don't care. I don't care that unders are hitting and hitting and hitting. You have a Bills team with motivation, clear issues defensively. And if the Falcons, can roll up 400 yards on the Buccaneers, why are we concerned about the Buccaneers defense? So okay, the over is something I'm going to move on. And what is your first leg of your teaser?
It is the Bills minus 2.5.
Bills minus 2.5. All right. I'm going to move on the over. That's enough of that. I'm going to move on the over, and I'm interested in the Bucs. I'm interested in the Bucs keeping this, within a touchdown.
Yeah, I agree. I think it might be a perfect spot to live bet the Bucks in this spot.
Oof. The over is going to be on my card though. This is something I want to do, and I should probably take the Buccaneers team total over as well. I probably should. I think I have to. God damn. This is not what I was. Yeah, I have to take the Bucks team total over and this full game over. All right, that is our Thursday nighter. Troy is teasing the Bills. I can't triple up on a Thursday nighter, so if I take the Bucks team total over, I'm not going to take the Bucks 8.5. But God, that might be a nice look too. All right, there is your Thursday nighter. Let's roll on.